Let's try again this time. Maybe this would be a lot better. Who's there? Hello, 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 hello. We're telling you followers that you have started a live video. Hang on. Spirit's Place of Decor, thank you for joining. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. Thanks for coming to support me. Tonight we're doing charity work. Mr. Shuaib, haha. Thank you for coming. We're doing charity work tonight, so no money talks. Let's wait for a few more people to join and then we get started. I didn't want to skip this video tonight because I was not live last week, so I just thought, Style and Stitches, thanks for coming back. You guys are the real MVPs. So you probably would have noticed I didn't come live last week. I had to take a break. So I didn't want it to turn to a pattern where I'm meant to be here every Mr. Shuaib. I'm meant to be here every Saturday night, right? Either 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, between 8 and 9 o'clock. But last week I was too tired. I tried, I really tried, but I just couldn't pull it off. So I didn't come here. So today I'm here and we'll just keep doing this. Sometimes I know the turnout might not be, fantastic, but hey, we'll just keep doing this. Hopefully, Ganze, thank you for joining. Hopefully, with time, people will join the crusade and more people will want to hear about this. So today, let me introduce myself. Everybody here knows me, but for those who are going to watch the replay who don't know me already, my name is Basirat Razaq-Shuaib. I am the founder of the Winford Centre for Children and Women. Vincent David, thank you for joining. I'm the founder of the Winford Centre for Children and Women, and we support children with developmental disabilities in Nigeria. We also have a Winford Centre here in the UK, but we are promoting awareness in Nigeria basically because awareness is very poor. And so this live sessions that I do on Saturdays is part of our Be Aware program, where we just come out and use any platform really to talk about developmental disabilities or related conditions, so that people can know about these conditions, then people can act better when they know about these conditions. Bold Special Fabrics, thank you for joining. So people can know, number one, people can know about the conditions, and then number two, people can act better when they know about these conditions. So if you have been following me, you'll notice in April we did autism. April was Autism Awareness Month, so all of April I spoke about autism. Now April has gone past, so we're going to be talking about other conditions. Tonight we're not going to do anything too deep, right? We're going to talk about a term that I heard fairly recently. Some person of influence in this country mentioned the word lazy. You know how easy it is for us to tag people as lazy. I think they said some people are lazy Nigerian youths. At least I won't fall into that category. I don't fall into that category. And if you're here tonight, you know what? By virtue of being here alone, I don't even think you belong into that category. But emphasis on the word lazy. So this whole idea of lazy, there are times that children, when children are growing, they can be reluctant to do things. Like you ask them to do something and they really don't want to do it. They can really be reluctant. And whilst I was growing up, it's one of the things that that I heard a lot of times. Why are you so lazy? Why are you so lazy? Why are you so lazy? Because you're reluctant to do some things. And so growing up and having children, or meeting other parents who have children as well, one of the things that I say is, you know, people just naturally go the lazy child route without necessarily, you know, maybe examining a little bit deeper to see if there's something else wrong with the child, not just that the child is lazy. Hence the topic that we're having tonight, that difficulty in writing. Is it laziness or is it dysgraphia? As anyone here, anyone who's on this thread tonight, Adewumi Olawale, both special fabrics, and Ibukun Lace Place. Thank you all for joining. Now, as anyone here tonight, have you heard of the word dysgraphia before? Has anyone heard of this word before? Or are you just hearing about it for the first time? If you've heard about it before, just let me know in the comment section if you've heard it before, or if this is your first time of coming across that word, dysgraphia. Dysgraphia. Who's come across that word before? Who knows what that word means? Anyone? Should I throw in a prize? Nope, it's new to me. So, should I throw in a prize for anyone who gets it right? No cheating. Don't go on Google. Don't go and check. Don't go and check what the answer is. So please don't cheat. Just tell me if you've heard it before, or if you haven't heard it before. Don't worry if you haven't heard it before. It's what we're talking about today. So there's no need to take a sneak peek. Pelagonia kids. Thanks for joining. Okay, so if you haven't heard of that word before, let me tell you what it is. Dysgraphia is a learning difficulty. Okay, it is a learning difficulty that has a neurological attachment. So anytime, right? Anytime, Miss Chops, anytime, thanks for joining. Anytime you hear me say something neurological, just think about the brain, right? Think about the brain. So because some of the terms can sound really big and bogus, and you'll be wondering, what is that again? What is that again? This isn't a biology class. And really, why should we even, you know, be bothering about big words? But I wish there was a way to explain this without having to mention any of those big words. But it's kind of hard. So I'll use the words and then I'll tell you what they mean. So, Kinde Olabi, thank you for joining. So dysgraphia is a learning difficulty, which means a learning difficulty is something that prevents you from learning. All right, that stands in your way of learning. It means it's something that it's like a barrier. So let's say there's a person who is willing to learn, but then they have a barrier to learning. There's a Nigerian movie on this. Really, that is really good. Do you know the name? Can you tell me the name? I can go and watch it. It'll be nice to watch. Dysgraphia. It'd be nice to watch it. Please tell me the name of the movie, and then I can look for it and watch. So a learning difficulty is something that is a barrier to learning. You know, it stands in the way of a person's ability to learn. But the thing with dysgraphia is that it has, you know, like a neurological attachment, which means something to do with the brain. So it's not just there like a difficulty that will just go away. You have to actually address it. Now, what dysgraphia does is that it makes it a definite destiny. Thank you for joining. It makes things such as writing very difficult. Okay, so something as simple as writing, it makes it difficult. And then imagine that you send a child to school, right? Or you're teaching a child. So this could apply to, it can apply to parents, or it can apply to teachers, or it can apply to anyone really. Drum roll for you. It can apply to anyone really. Imagine that you sent a child to school, or you're teaching a child at school, and the child is very reluctant to write. The first thing is, the teacher might report to the parent and say, this child is lazy, this child does not like writing, or Nana, thank you for joining. Or you might even find the parent saying, my child is lazy, my child doesn't like to write. Okay, now I once heard someone say something, I think it was on phone. She said, when you don't do something enough, you won't like it, right? But if you do something repeatedly, you will learn to like it. But imagine that someone actually wants to learn something, but there's something standing in the way, and that thing is preventing them from properly learning how to do that thing. They will get discouraged, okay? They'll get discouraged, and they might not want to continue with the learning. With discouragement comes, withdrawal, or even, less attempts to try to do that activity. And that is what happens. So this difficulty is a difficulty in writing. Now, writing in itself, right? And this is the beauty. I love when I do these things, because there are so many things that we take for granted. There's so many things that we take for granted because those things come to us naturally. Like if a child's growing, look, if you have a child around you, just keep them away, like 2-year-old, between 2 and 3. Make sure that there's no pen around them. Click, hey, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Make sure that there's no pen around them, because guess what? They're going to take the pen and start marking your walls. My computer here has pencil marks all over it. Everything around me has, pencil marks, because children like to explore. So if you give them a pen, right, they will take it and see what the pen can do. They will try what the fingers can do. Okay, so the pen can do this. And they've seen you use it. So if mommy or if anybody holds this pen, it makes a mark somewhere. Let me give it a try, right? But here is the thing. You see, something as simple as writing letter A, right? So if all I want to do is just write letter A, right? There's a lot of planning that goes into writing this one alphabet that we are not aware of, that we take for granted, because it comes to us naturally. It's coming to us easily. We're not struggling with it. We are not having to, it's just coming. We have learned it, we have mastered it, and we can take a pen and just write it. But behind the scene, right? Behind the scene, so this is back office now. There's a lot of planning that goes into making this mark, right? Because there's a part of your brain that has processed the fact that what you want to write is the letter A, not the letter Z, right? So in your brain, you have a mental recognition, or you have a memory, you have it stored somewhere that A is represented in a certain way, right? And Z is represented in a certain way. So when I say I want to, and I'm saying this even as an adult, not for a child. When I say I want to write the letter A, right? Somewhere in my brain, once I even conceive that thought, I don't need to say it to anyone. Once I conceive that thought, somewhere in my brain, I have processed it that the letter I want to write is the one that goes this way, not the one that goes this way. Are we getting it? So that the letter that I want to write is A, not Z. And then there's another part of this processing where I would have figured out that, okay, I want to write the letter A on a paper, right? I don't want to write it on the wall. I'm sitting down here and I'm thinking, there's so many places I can write. I can write on my computer, I can write on the wall, I can write on the floor, and I can write on this piece of paper. I've also processed it and said, I am writing this letter A on a piece of paper. Now, all of that, and these things take, like microseconds. All of this has gone on in my brain. And then I translate all of that into making that mark on a piece of paper, and then someone looks at it and says A. Okay, so that is what goes into writing. It's a complex set of abilities. It's a complex set of activities behind the scene that goes into writing. Now, this is me, right, thinking I want to write A by myself. Let's top it up one step, and that one step is that someone gives me an instruction to write letter A. That is one more thing added to the process, or that is one more thing added to what my brain needs to process. Are we clear? If you're with me, please tap the heart. If you understand what I'm saying, please tap the heart. If you have any question, just type it there. I agree. I always have difficulty writing 3. It takes me a lot of effort. Can you imagine? And Tiwi isn't 2. Tiwi isn't 5-year-old. Tiwi is an adult, right? And she's telling you that she still has difficulty writing the letter 3. Everyone who's joined and I haven't had a chance to mention your name, please forgive me. Thank you for joining, and I really, really appreciate that you made out time to join me here. So, like I was saying, now imagine that someone gives the instruction, right? So, if it's someone who says to me, Basirat, write the letter A, first I need to process that instruction, okay? So first I need to process what did let's say Tiwa said to me, Basirat, write the letter A. I have to first process what did or Basirat, write the letter A, write capital A on a piece of paper, right? Basirat, write capital A on a piece of paper. I first have to process what Tiwa said to me. What does Tiwa want me to do? Tiwa wants me to write capital A, not capital Z. And then in my brain, I separate, okay, it's A, the one that goes this way, and not the one that goes this other way. And then I would convert all of that thought into, and then I then have to tell myself, okay, for me to do that, I need a pen. I need to grab my pen. And I need to grab my pen, not this way, but this way, right? I need to grab my pen, not like this. I need to grab my pen like this. And then I need to put my hand on the table or place my hand in a certain position in order for me, and then start to make the marks. Now, look at all of the things I've listed for you. Just from that simple instruction, Basirat, write capital A, capital letter A on a piece of paper, right? Look at all of things that's happening back then. Now, if a child has a problem with any of those processes, right, it is possible for it to translate into difficulty in writing. And that is why I try to take you through the process, so that you would know the process first and then you would understand. Because if a child has visual and language processing problems, right, like their ability to translate what they see, convert. So I see something, I convert it into information that my brain can recognize, process it in my brain, and then make an output that somebody else can recognize in form of a response, right? So visual language processing, or even visual audio processing. So being able to understand, being able to process what I see or what I hear, translate that into relevant information, process it, carry out an action on it, and then, bring it out back. This kind of reminds me of when we started to learn computer or computer science or computer studies, whatever it is, back in, it could have been in the university or something, where you draw this input, process, output, and then you have this very funny looking diagram, which I don't even remember much of now. So you have input, process, output to say how the computer works, right? Like you input something and then you have input elements, some like keyboard and all that. So you input something, then the computer processes it in the memory and all that using the central processing unit, and then it then converts it into output for you. That's just, this computer is sort of created to mimic our brain, the way our brain works and processes information. So if a child has any difficulty in any of this, in carrying out any of the steps that I mentioned, they are most likely going to have difficulty in writing, because you want a child to write letter A. First, the child, see, let's do it this way. A child who has attention difficulty will not wait to hear all of your instruction. So if you tell the child to write capital H, chances are that the child is going to write small letter A, because the child did not even wait to hear all of the instructions. Ada, thanks for joining. Pepperest, Alicia, Dami, Minette, thanks for joining. The child didn't even wait to hear all of your instruction, right? So you can see how that attention problem is going to translate into a writing problem for them. But you must be able to process what you want to write, how you want to write it, and translate all of this information into marks, characters, or letters. If you're unable to do that, right, the output that you're going to get is going to be faulty. And that's it. Nkechi, thanks for joining. The output you're going to get is going to be faulty. So, what else do parents need to know? On the face of it, it might look to you like a child is lazy, because every time they try to write, they tell you, I am tired. A child will write one sentence, the child will tell you, I am tired. They haven't written anything. If it's a school or if it's a place of learning where the child even has to copy from the board, it would even be more difficult, because the teacher will keep writing and the child will not be copying. The child is unable to copy at the same pace, right? The child does not want to write. They are struggling. The key question for you as a parent and for someone who is an educator is, look, how do I know if there's an underlying problem that this child that needs to be addressed for this child, right? Because in child development, the children develop at different paces. So it is very, very possible that a child's writing skills has just not developed enough and that they will catch up. And there's nothing wrong, okay? It is very possible. When a child is about between 2 and 3 years old, they expect, in fact, by the time the child is 2, they expect that the child should be able to copy marks, right? One of the developmental milestones, and I talk about this a lot, like if you don't know what to expect, you won't know when it's going wrong. One of the developmental milestones that they will check is the fact that if you write a mark, so if I make this mark and I give the pen to my 2.5-year-old, he should be able to copy that mark. It's just a single stroke, right? Either a single stroke coming down or a single stroke going sideways or anything. A child 2 to 2.5 between 2 and 3 should be able to copy that mark, right? If the child is not able to copy that mark exactly the same way, in the same way that I have drawn it or I have made it, they would look at how close that mark is to what I have made. So you see, if I make a straight line, if I make a stroke, right, I wouldn't expect a child to copy it and make a curve. If you get what I'm saying. I wouldn't expect a 2.5-year-old to look at a stroke and I ask the child to copy it and then the child makes a curve. It means that that child has not interpreted that stroke correctly. Because what I expect is that the child should look at what I have written and look at the direction that that thing is going and be able to do something similar. So I don't expect to make a stroke or to write, you know, something like letter 1 or number 1, and then ask a child to copy it, and then the child gives me something like number 0. That already tells me that, you know, there's something wrong in that processing. So the fundamental questions that the fundamental question that parents and educators would be interested in is, how do I know if this is just something that the child will catch up on, or if this is something that requires additional help? Anything I tell you here, right, what will always come after it is that early intervention is key. If a child has any problem, as though if you intervene early enough, you can give the child adequate support. You can help. The child has a better chance of improved outcomes, right, if they have early intervention. So what we're interested in is, how do I know if there's something else to work? How do I know if this is something that the child will catch up on, or if this is something that requires, you know, maybe additional specialist help? The beauty of it is that there can be telltale signs, right? The ultimate diagnosis of dysgraphia is going to be called by someone who is known as an educational psychologist. Okay, so what is the difference between dysgraphia and dyslexia? Damimina, I've noted your question. I'll take it before I go. Tiwa's place, my 3-year-old writes E the other way around most times. He is left-handed. Is this something to be concerned about? Tiwa is just 3. My now 5-year-old, when he was 3-year-old, he used to write P the other way around, even when he was 4. So, you know, P is a stroke and then something that goes this way. He used to write his P this way, but now he's flipped it back. He's moved past it. If that is the only thing, right, like he's only writing E that way, this happens. But how do I know if I should be more concerned, right? I will tell you a few things that can be signs that, maybe there's something else. Remember, you can't call the diagnosis yourself. Neither can a child's teacher call the diagnosis by themselves. There are people who are trained for this type of diagnosis. So don't let any teacher, don't let any class teacher come and tell you your child is this, your child is that. They have no right to do that. Okay, so let me give you some examples, things that are like telltale signs that would let you know, maybe I really need to start worrying. Poor memory or ability to recall, age appropriate information. This I already talked about anyway. So poor memory or ability to recall age appropriate information. As a child grows, that's the same way the level of, you know, like the ability to retain information increases. Ruth, thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. The ability to retain information increases as well, right? Now, I don't expect, I truly do not expect that a 3-year-old should be able to recount everything they did from morning till night. I dropped my son off at the nursery in the morning and I pick him up in the evening about 5:30, right? It would be silly of me to expect that he'll be able to narrate everything that happened from the time that I dropped him to the time that I picked him up. Why? Because it's not age appropriate, right? I can't expect a child that age to be able to store and recount that amount of, you know, information to me. However, if I ask him for the highlight, right, I can say, what did you do today? He might be able to tell me, I played with a toy, right? Which is good. I played with a toy, or I played with my friend, or I did this, or I did that. he'll be able to tell me, give me selected bits. Even my 5-year-old, right? My 5-year-old, if I ask him to recount his day, he won't tell me, when you dropped me off at 8, I then did this, I then did that, no, he won't recount it by the hour. No. What he will do is that it will take the highlights, but the ones that would make meaning to me. So he might tell me, I did maths, then I had lunch, and that was it. No, that can't be it. What happened? You were meant to have a play today. Oh yes, that play. Do you know what happened? And they start to tell me the story, right? That is age appropriate for him. But if a child is unable to recount, the child has poor memory. So now say that we're using the term poor memory is relative. You can't say because a 3-year-old cannot recount what a 5-year-old can recount. You can't say because of that the 3-year-old has poor memory. You have to measure him with in line with what is expected of his age or her age. Okay, so that can be a sign. That can be the first sign. Now, for those of you, I share this with others that for those of you who drop off your kids, or for those people who drop off kids at school, Conley, thanks, Johnny. For those people who drop off kids at school, right? The significant part of your child's life is spent with someone else. Okay, so if you're a 9-to-5 worker who in the morning you drop off your child at the nursery and then you pick them up at the evening, or whatever type of worker you are, even if you're an entrepreneur and you still do the same thing, you drop off your child in the morning, you pick them up in the evening. Think about it. The child is spending about 10 hours, roughly about 8-9 hours is what the child is spending at the nursery, is what they're spending with someone else, right? And then you pick them up around 5 to 6. Before you know it, they have to sleep at 8, and 8 till 6 the next morning, they're sleeping. So think about how much time you really get to spend with them. They're spending most of their life with someone else. So chances are that someone else might pick up things that you as the parent might not pick up. It is very, very possible. So this is the point where I'm going to say, parents, if someone's telling you, if an educator is telling you something about your child, please just pause and listen. Not necessarily that they would, again, call a diagnosis, but if they're drawing your attention to a difficulty that your child is having, please pay attention to it. Don't say, no, when he's at home, he writes properly. Yes, but how many hours are you spending? Right? If it's that you are the one who spends 10 hours with the child and the child only spends 2 hours at the nursery or at their school, and then the school comes to tell you they're not really writing, you can start to say, okay, maybe it's something to do with the environment or it's something to do with this. But if they're spending more time with someone else and someone else is telling you, look, I'm picking up things, pay attention to it. Don't just, like discount it and say they're picking on your child or they want to give your child a name or whatever it is. So, poor memory, that can be an underlying sign. The next problem or the next telltale sign will be something that is called poor visual spacing or overall spatial planning. You see, there's something about being able to plan spaces. This is not interior decor type of work, right? If you give me a line, as I start, okay, so I'll draw this for you, okay, guys? I'll draw this for you. I hope you can see it. Let's say I have this whole piece of paper. It's not marked, right? There's no line. And I ask a child to write. You can find that their writing will go, hang on. Their writing will go this way. Can you see? Just try, please. The writing might go this way. Right? Can you see the mark I've made? Can you see like up, down, up, down, up, down? There's really nothing to guide them. As a child grows and grows, you expect them that when they start to write, they should be able to try and between their eyes and their brain be able to keep their writing steady, such that this mark would improve over time, even though it might not be perfect line, right? It would be less than this. As the child grows, eventually they will be able to write, sorry if you can't, just try and see, they would be able to write this way, which is more. So can you see over here, the writing is all over the place. They'll write A here, B, C, D, E, F, whatever is the writing. As they grow, that gets better. As they grow, that gets better. Such that if I give a child a piece of paper, right, even if it's unmarked, they can use their eyes and brain to plan out the space, right? That is one thing. Another thing with spatial planning, so I hope you managed to see what I've done there. Another thing with spatial planning is that the way spatial planning doesn't just have to do with writing. If someone has a problem with spatial planning, that problem is going to be evident in it might be evident in other areas of their lives if you pay attention to it, right? A person who cannot, like plan space properly on paper might also have a problem planning space properly, as in actual space where they're staying, being able to avoid obstacles, or planning their course properly, being able to know how to use a space. And when I say use a space, remember I said it's not like interior decor kind of work. Use a space for a child is being able to use a space for play, right? Knowing that, okay, I'm playing here, this is where I'm eating, then if I move over there, that is where I'm playing. I'm not putting my toys inside my food, or I'm not putting my food inside my toys, or on top of my toys, or it all works together. So if a child has poor visual spatial planning, right, you can see this in the way their handwriting is going to manifest. Their writing is going to be all over the place. Like they can write. Now, even if you give them a book which is lined, so the book we normally call 2A. If you don't know 2A, see, the next time you see me, just say good morning, ma. 2A is that book that is lined. Everybody must have used 2A. If you schooled in Nigeria, you would know the 2A notebook, right? So it's your typical lined notebook. Even if you gave them that notebook, they would still write out of the line. And it will be all over the place because they have problem with spatial planning. Again, remember, I don't expect a 2-year-old, and this, every time you say a child isn't doing something, is because I'm comparing to like a benchmark, right? What I expect at a certain age. It doesn't have to be perfect. It could be up or down, not exactly perfect. However, there is a level of attainment that I would expect to see. So if I can't expect a 2-year-old to be able to write in a straight line. Even my 4-year-old, my son is 5.5, right? When he's doing his homework, I have to consistently tell him, stay on the line. Don't write outside of the line. When he's painting, I have to constantly remind him, don't paint out. Don't paint outside the line. Don't paint outside the line. But give a 2-year-old something to paint, right? They will give a 2-year-old a circle to paint. Huh? They will paint the whole page. Okay? So this is the kind of thing. So there's a lot to do with expectation. Don't start to expect a 4-year-old outcome from a 2-year-old. Just age appropriate, right? Then the third thing could be the pencil grip. Now there are different, as a child develops, the beauty of these things. Again, if we don't look closely, we won't even know. As a child develops, the way they hold their pencil changes. When the first time a child handles a pencil, they're going to handle the pencil this way, you know, like as if they want to stab, as if they want to stab the nearest person to them. This is the way they're going to hold it. Then, as it progresses, they might hold with all 4 fingers, and then as they grow, they eventually grow to this type of holding, which is what most of us do, which is called the tripod grip. Okay, they might move to that. But before the tripod grip is the 4-finger grip, right? 4-finger grip, because it's more stable for them. Now, when you find by the time a child from like 3 years old, you would expect that a child should be able to do the tripod grip. By the time they get to 4 years old, that tripod grip should be in place. But then again, for some children, it's not in place. See, there are people who do handwriting fixing, and this has nothing to do with dysgraphia, okay? It's possible for a child just not to be able to know how to hold their pencils properly, right? But remember, when I started to list out those things, I said there might be other telltale signs. So it means that these things are not happening in isolation. There are other things. These other things are the things that would be warning signals to you that the child is not doing this, is not doing this, is not doing this. I probably need to seek additional help. Okay, or this child is not doing A, is not doing B, is not doing C. I probably need to talk to the child's parents about the child's difficulty, because ultimately I can see that they are not writing the way they are meant to write. Okay, so poor pencil grip is another thing. And then another thing you can notice is poor strength. KGB, Kule, join me every Saturday. So Monday to Friday, if you see me and I'm online and I'm doing Instagram live, just know I'm talking about money. I'm talking about business accounting. I'm talking about how to record your money, how to chase your money, how to look at it. But on Saturday, if you find me online, I'm doing charity work. I'm talking about child development and developmental disabilities and how we can help children. Poor muscle strength and finger dexterity. So finger dexterity is the way, you know, the ability to use the fingers in different ways, you know, to be able to adapt the fingers to this, different things. Like, I know that when I'm holding a pen, I should hold my pen this way. If I'm holding a brush, I should hold my brush this way. If I am holding a spoon, I should hold my spoon this way. If I'm holding fork and knife, I should hold my fork and knife. Being able to, you know, adapt the finger to do different things. If you notice poor finger strength, or, you know, poor muscle strength in a child, in addition to all of these other things that I have been mentioning, it could be another sign. Because what happens is that if a child has poor muscle strength in their fingers, right, they will get tired easily. If you tell a child to keep writing like this, right, and the child has poor muscle strength and finger dexterity, when they write A, write B, write C, the hand is tired. If you went to secondary school in Nigeria, well, depending on the secondary school that you attended, secondary school that I attended, I went to FGGC Busa. The secondary school that I attended, the teacher would come to class, they would dictate notes. At first, they used to write on the board, and you have to be able to write fast, yeah? Because if the child is writing, how wide is the board? The board is just maybe like this wide. How wide is it? If the teacher is writing, he divides the board into two. He starts to write on this side. You're copying. He writes on this side. You're copying. If by the time he finishes the second side, you haven't finished copying, he's going to rub off this side. And that is the beginning of your words. You start to look for, have you finished copying that side? Who finished copying that side? Or even you don't get frustrated because nobody is going to stop for you to copy their own notes. Then you have to stop, or you leave spaces. Yes, we used to do that as well. You leave spaces in your book to make up for the things that you have missed, and then continue writing again, just so that. But what the reason I'm telling you this story is because think about it: the number of things that you have to write, the number of words that you have to write, or even if you were writing words per minute, how many words do you have to write per minute? How fast do you need to write? Now, ask somebody who has poor finger dexterity or muscle strength to come and copy notes. They're going to struggle, right? Or you ask them to write a book report, and the book report, they're not typing it. I mean, at a certain age, maybe children might be required to type in their book report, but at the stage where we are at now, you're not typing in any book report. If they give you a book and you have to summarize the book, you write it, right? So it's possible, yes, if there's a lot to write, a child is allowed to get tired. But if a child is constantly before they write one letter, they're already tired. Before they write two letters, they're already tired. You need to start worrying. And see, pay attention to it. It's not every time that a child is just giving you a flimsy excuse. They might tell you, my wrist is tired. My fingers are tired. My hand is tired. What kind of tiredness is that, right? Children can come up with all of those things. Look, don't discount all of those things. Pay attention to them and look at how that is affecting other things for them. Another thing could be maybe, the way they hold scissors. And then last thing that could be another sign is if the child is having speech and language difficulties. So in one of my previous live sessions, I've already spoken about, I already spoke about speech and language, and I'm not going to be going into it extensively again tonight. But if a child is having speech and language difficulties, so speech is, the way they talk, most commonly their expressive language, and then language would be generally other type of language, so maybe like body language, their understanding and all of that. If a child is struggling with speech and language, chances are that can also affect their ability to translate information. Lillian, Icy Drinks, Bagsdale, Favored Still, thanks everyone for joining. That might also affect their ability to write. Now I've told you everything that you have to look for. I've told you what the problem might look like. I've told you how the problem might manifest. I've told you who is the person that can call the diagnosis. The person who can call the diagnosis is someone who is known as an educational psychologist. The person would assess, the difficulties that the child is having in terms of learning what is appropriate for their age. And then with input from an occupational therapist, that educational psychologist would be able to tell you if the child actually has dysgraphia, or if carpal tunnel syndrome. I don't know what that is. I don't know what carpal tunnel syndrome is. Can carpal tunnel syndrome affect the way you write? I don't know what carpal tunnel syndrome is, and I will have to go and check this and probably come back to you on it. Nana is on this Nana is on this live session. Nana, if you know what carpal tunnel syndrome is, or if you can address Tiwa's question, please can you type in your answer and let her know. I don't know what carpal tunnel syndrome is. I would have to look that up and let you know, Tiwa. So now that we know all of this, how can we help the child? How can we help the child? Hi, how are you too? I can call your name, but thanks for joining. Olushala Fayoko, thanks for joining. How can we help the child? Okay, so it's one thing to know that the child cannot list it from now till whenever. The child cannot do this, the child cannot do that, whatever. How can we help this child? The first thing is, as a parent, the first way you can help your child is by knowing, right? Ignorance is not bliss. Excuse me, please. Ignorance is not bliss. It's by knowing. Because with knowledge, you can help your child, right? And knowledge of what? Knowledge of what is expected of your child at different ages. so that if they are not achieving their milestones, you will know, you will be able to identify it, you'll be able to spot it. If you don't know what you're looking for, everything's just going to, it would be pretty much like, you know, just hoping that things, leaving everything to chance, right? Don't follow that parenting style, that chance parenting style. You know, don't do it. Act the same way. And I've said this before. If you want to trade in, Tiwa does candles, right? She does candles and fragrances and reed diffusers. She wasn't born with that knowledge. She had to go and learn it. What I am telling you, I was not born with this knowledge. I had to learn it, right? Because I need to use it for what I am doing now. Tiwa needs to learn how to make candles or how to make reed diffusers in order to be able to produce reed diffusers that she can sell. So don't assume that, you know, parenting is just going to happen like that. You actually have to learn. There might not be any school of parenting, but there's loads and loads of information out there that you can learn from. But at the very minimum, just be in tune with, you know, what the developmental milestones for your child, for their ages or for their age, what the developmental milestones are. Because when you know those, you would know if there's something wrong. So that is the first way that you can help. The second way that you can help is, once you know the developmental milestones, if there's something wrong, or if you have been alerted to something being wrong, or suspected to be wrong, seek professional help and address the underlying issues, okay? Don't let pride comes before a fall. Even in parenting, it does, yeah? Pride comes before a fall. It can't be my child because you're a superstar. Your child cannot have writing problems. Yes, your child can have writing problems, and I'm not cursing you. A child can have anything. If a child has something, you learn to deal with it. So, forget my child cannot have. If they say your child has something, go and address it. In fact, if they say, we suspect your child, your child is having these difficulties, we suggest you see a professional. If the professional tells you that there is nothing wrong, what have you lost? Nothing. You might think you have lost time. Oh, the time I used to go there, all the time that I used to worry, but you have gained peace of mind. Okay? Compare that peace of mind to you saying, never, ever, over my dead body, it can't be my child. And then it turns out that the child actually needs help. Imagine, you know, the way you're going to kick yourself. So wouldn't you rather be safe than sorry? If they suspect that there's something wrong, and then you see someone and they tell you that there's nothing wrong, then, you know, there's nothing to worry about, right? So if a child has any underlying issues, go ahead and address all the underlying issues. Look, addressing a child's underlying issues sometimes might even mean that you have to change your lifestyle as a parent. If you were closing before at 6 o'clock, it might mean that maybe you now have to close at 5, just so that you can spend additional 30 minutes or additional 1 hour with the child just to support them. Woman, man, that is life. Deal with it. It's all part of the parenting package. So you learn to deal with it, okay? Your child first. Then another thing that you can use, another way that you can help the child, right? So let's assume that the child has actually been diagnosed now. The child has actually been diagnosed with dysgraphia. One thing you can do is, remember we said a child could be having problems with visual and language processing. So being able to process what they see and what they hear, and be able to translate that into writing, right? What you can do is explore other senses, right? Like the sense of touch and feeling. sense of touch and feeling, that helps a lot, because as a child is thinking, okay, what is it, A, B, C, or whatever it is, if they are able to feel it, it might aid their ability to understand what it is that they want to do, or what it is that is expected of them. So explore other senses, you know, especially the sense of feeling. Then there are activities that will be suggested to you. So activities around muscle strength and finger dexterity, and this is to help strengthen the child's muscles, just so that, you know, they don't easily get tired. Imagine this, right? If you've not been athletic, what would happen is, if you run maybe 50 meters, when you stop, you'll be panting. I used to be athletic in school. I used to run 100 meters. See, I could even barely complete the race, and I was meant to be, you know, like running for competition. So if you run for 50 meters, you find yourself tired. For people who even exercise regularly, you find this. But as you run consistently, if you consistently do it, your body would adapt to it. You won't get tired of 50 anymore. You'd be able to go past 50. Maybe you then start to get tired at 100 meters. And then you keep, so training helps you get better. And that's the thing with, you know, muscle strength and dexterity as well. If you train the muscles, just keep training them, they will improve. They will improve. Every time you hear someone is doing one kind of therapy, physiotherapy, speech therapy, something therapy, it's training your body or your mind to consistently do something so that they can get better at doing that thing or knowing how to do that thing. So activities such as molding can help. So say, for instance, you can find molding clay. It could be Play-Doh, it could be any type of molding clay, it could be quicksand, anything, any type of molding clay, right? And encourage them to do a lot of molding, things that ensures that helps them to move their fingers around, right? Make out the letters using that molding clay. So you can try doing that. Hopefully that can, you know, help their strength and also help their understanding of letters and characters. Then this tip I just stumbled across, and I think it is a fantastic tip. If you have a child who is unable, and even if the child doesn't have dysgraphia, right, this would help for any child who cannot stick to the line, right? So a child who is writing but cannot stick to the line, this would help. See, what you do is that, let's say a child is meant to write only from here to here, right? You put something raised. Just put something raised, not like a flat piece of paper. It's because I don't have anything else to demonstrate with. Something raised or something rough, something like Velcro, right? Something like Velcro that you can easily peel off. Just put it where you want the child to stop writing. Guess what? If you put something so we're using Velcro as the example. If I put Velcro here, if you're writing, once your pen gets to this place, it starts to shake, right? Because it's not a smooth surface. So that can help to, you know, remind the child that they are not meant to go past that line, or that they can't write past that place, and try to stick their writing to just the area above it. Fantastic hack that I learned. And then the last thing is, no, this isn't the last thing. Try pinching. Pinching. So again, you can use Play-Doh, or you can use any type of molding clay for this. Try pinching. I think what I'm going to do, I don't know if it's a good idea, so just tell me if you've been on this video if you've been on the session tonight, if you'd like me to add anything. What I'm thinking of is maybe I can get a sample of some of these things. So if I'm talking about molding clay and how to pinch, I can bring molding clay and show you how to pinch. I can they don't cost a lot, so I can afford to buy one just for demonstration. It's not the kind of thing that I'm going to spend £50 on or anything. It would probably cost me maybe about £3 to buy a pot of molding clay that I can use to demonstrate, and I can use the overall. Plus I might have some from the kids. So if I bring that to you as a parent or as a teacher or anything, and I show you how it is that you're expected to like mold or practice, that would help you even more to understand some of the tips that I'm talking about. So practice pinching. And you see, this pinching is very, very important. This 2-finger, not 3 fingers, right? 2-finger pinching, very, very important. Making sure that children can pick things, can do this, can do that, just pinching. And then organized storytelling, just help them to recount what they've gone through. So my time is almost up. Someone posted a question. I'm going to respond to your question and post it. I'm sorry this is going to cut abruptly, but thank you for joining me tonight, and I'll see you again next week.